Have you ever felt forgotten, like the world moved on, and you were left behind? How many times have you looked out the window and thought, does anyone still care? The truth is, after a certain age, the silence grows louder, visits become fewer, and loneliness, the kind no one sees, starts to weigh heavier than any physical pain. But what if I told you, there are places where age isn't invisible? Real living projects thriving in communities, where the elderly are welcomed, valued, and most importantly heard. Spaces where friendship is planted, dignity is harvested, and life is lived with purpose. Places where time is no longer a burden, but a gift. In this video, you'll discover transformative initiatives that prove there's still so much to live, teach, and share. And if you're feeling alone today, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might be exactly what your heart has been waiting for. Subscribe to the channel, because here, every week, we remind you, you matter, and your story still has many beautiful chapters left to be written. The value of connection, community centers that become family. Have you ever noticed how the silence of a home can scream louder when there's no one to share coffee with? Many believe aging means retreating, sitting quietly in a corner, watching life pass by through the window. But there are places that prove otherwise. Places where life still pulses strongly. And that's where community centers come in, though calling them just centers doesn't do them justice. They're more than that. They're living homes. Homes that welcome, that listen, that remind us we still have so much to give and so much to live. Time isn't just filled with activities to keep busy. There, time is celebrated with connections that give meaning to each day. Some arrive timidly, carrying years of silence, loss, and emotional weariness in their eyes. But after a few mornings there, sitting at the table with others, their faces begin to change, posture straightens, laughter returns, first shy, then freer, fuller. Because when you're called by name, when someone misses you on a cloudy Tuesday, you remember who you are. The routine in these spaces holds a value far beyond the schedule. Craft classes aren't just about making decorations. They're moments of expression, of emotional rebuilding. Every stitch and embroidery carries memories. Every piece of sewn fabric connects not just cloth, but lives. In music circles, voices once silenced by routine find space. Some never thought they'd sing again, and there they do. It doesn't matter if the voice cracks, what matters is the spark in their eyes. And then there are the games. Yes, the games, dominoes, cards, bingo. Simple activities, but they spark something powerful. Exchange, the exchange of glances, playful teasing, stories that emerge between moves, stories that often hadn't been told in years. There, participants aren't just playing, they're being seen, they're connecting, they're saying, even if silently, I am here, and my presence matters. The most beautiful thing about these spaces is that they don't function like cold institutions, with rigid schedules and distance. They breathe, they pulse with the energy of every senior who arrives and, little by little, finds something they might not have even known they were searching for: community. And when community forms, everything changes. Loneliness, which seemed inevitable, begins to fade. Self-esteem, often forgotten, starts to grow again. And the gaze, once downcast, finds a new horizon. Some, after joining a community center, start taking care of themselves. Again, they dye their hair, wear perfume, pick out their favorite outfit the night before. Because now, they have somewhere to go, someone who's waiting for them. And that changes everything. Because when you feel like you belong, life takes on new color. And the most transformative part? These places aren't built with grand structures, but with small intentions. A smile at the door, a warm cup of coffee served with care, a volunteer who listens attentively. It's the little things that turn a center into a home. And there, in that often simple space, with walls decorated by handmade crafts, something profound happens. Time moves differently. It doesn't rush, it doesn't slip away, it walks slowly. As if knowing that here, at last, it's worth savoring. Because the true value of connection isn't in the scheduled event, it's in the spontaneous hug. The story shared during a break. The glance of recognition between two people who were once strangers. Now friends. If there's a real antidote to loneliness and sadness in old age, it's called companionship. And where there's genuine companionship, something even greater is born. A new family. A family that doesn't need blood ties, just presence, just listening, just a place where the heart can rest and say with ease, now I belong. Community garden. Where much more than lettuce grows. It's curious how the earth, seemingly silent, has so much to teach. In a time when everything is urgent, everything is fast, it insists on reminding us that growth has its own pace. And that caring for something with patience is a revolutionary act. Imagine what happens when hands that have lived so much, hands marked by time, come together around the soil. That's exactly what's happening in community gardens for seniors. But don't be mistaken. These spaces aren't just plots for planting lettuce or herbs. They're territories of rebirth. There, every seed dropped into the soil carries a living metaphor that even after 60, 70, 80, there's still time to bloom, still time to reinvent yourself. The first thing you notice in these gardens is the spirit of cooperation. Nothing there is individual. Everything is done together. From choosing the seedlings to sharing the harvest. And in the process, something incredible happens. Conversations flow. One woman shares what she learned from her grandmother. Another offers tips from his youth on the farm. Generations intertwine. Sometimes, even young volunteers join in. And then the exchange deepens. One teaches about plants. The other teaches how to use a phone. Everyone walks away richer. There's also something deeply intimate about this practice. Tending the earth requires attention, presence, listening. And that reflects inward. Many seniors who carried the weight of depression, lack of routine, or absence of purpose rediscover the value of each day when they wake up early to water their plants. Waking up with a reason. Waiting for something to happen. Celebrating when the first sprout breaks through the soil. This is more than gardening. It's living therapy. Spirituality in the form of vegetables. And it's not just about planting. It's about caring together. A community garden mirrors a community that wants to grow side by side. There, no one gives orders. Everyone learns. The person who teaches pruning today learns about fertilizing tomorrow. And in this cycle, ego dissolves. All that's left is the human affection. The connection. There's another rarely discussed but essential factor. Food. Many seniors live on limited resources, and the garden becomes a source of healthy, free nourishment. But even this practical aspect takes on a deeper meaning, because when you harvest what you planted with your own hands, the flavor changes. A meal is no longer an obligation. It becomes a ritual, a reconnection with dignity. And there's more. These projects often include local markets. The surplus is sold or donated. And the senior, who once thought they had nothing left to contribute, now takes part in the neighborhood economy. They become an agent. An active part of the community's engine. And self-esteem, once wilted like a forgotten leaf in the corner, begins to shine again. The most beautiful part? The earth doesn't judge. It doesn't ask your age. It doesn't demand a diploma. It simply responds with generosity to those who treat it with respect. And that somehow heals. Because in these gardens, what grows goes far beyond leaves. Hope grows. Good conversation grows. Tight hugs at the end of harvest grow. The will to live grows. And if you stop to think, maybe the secret to longevity isn't in expensive supplements or magic formulas, but in something much simpler. In touching the earth. In watching life sprout right before your eyes, even when it seemed like everything had already passed. The community garden shows that nature, like us, never stops starting over. There, Time isn't frightening. It inspires, and even those who arrive thinking they'd seen it all. Discover that sometimes the best is yet to come, disguised as a seed. Art that embraces cultural workshops to rekindle the soul. Some feelings can't be explained with words. They get stuck in the throat, muffled by years of silence. Life's demands, the fear of judgment. But when a brush touches a canvas, when music begins to play softly in the background, something shifts. What was locked away starts to break free. That's why cultural workshops for seniors aren't just pastimes. They're open doors to what's been locked inside for too long. Picture a simple room, chairs in a circle, blank canvases waiting, and there, men and women who, often, never allowed themselves to create. Some were forbidden from pursuing art long ago because art doesn't put food on the table. Others simply didn't think they were good enough. But in that space, no one is judged on technique. Their value lies in the courage to express, in the courage to let out what's been swallowed for so long. In the painting workshop, the first stroke is always the hardest. Hands tremble, eyes hesitate. But after a few minutes, the brush flows, and with it, memories emerge. The childhood home, the smell of grandma's cake, the smile of a long-lost love. Every painting there is a story, told without words. And when the group gathers to see the results, no one laughs. No one points out mistakes. There are only moved eyes, because what they see is authenticity in its purest form. In theater classes, scenes unfold simply but carry deep truths. Often the characters are just symbolic versions of themselves. And in acting, they rediscover themselves. They relive unresolved moments. They cry what was left unsaid. And when the audience, sometimes just the group itself, applauds, it's not just for the performance. It's for the brave act of saying, "This is my story, and now it no longer imprisons me." And then comes the music. Oh, the music. Its power to heal can't be contained in sheet music. Some women sing as if traveling back in time. Some men rediscover a younger version of themselves in the guitar. And even those who thought they couldn't sing learn that what matters is feeling, letting the voice come out, shaky or not, and touch someone else. There, no one is off key. There's only shared emotion. These workshops also awaken something many believed they'd lost: self-esteem. When someone sees their painting displayed, their poetry read aloud, their scene applauded, something inside ignites. It's as if the mirror reflects something beautiful again, something worth being seen. And the most powerful part? These workshops aren't about talent. They're about expression. About giving yourself permission. About understanding that there's still so much inside waiting to be born or reborn. Many of these projects even hold exhibitions open to the community, and the spark in the participants' eyes when they see their work displayed alongside others is indescribable. They're not just seniors in a social program. They're artists, creators, protagonists of their own stories. And that changes everything. Because for decades, many were reduced to social roles: father, mother, grandparent, homemaker, retiree. Important roles, yes, but ones that, over time, left little room for who they are beyond them. Art gives that space back. It whispers, "You're still you. You can still create. You can still move the world." These workshops also forge powerful bonds between participants. There, no one has to pretend everything's fine. No one needs a social mask. Vulnerability is celebrated. And that creates deep connections. Because when two people share something so true, they recognize themselves in each other's pain and beauty. In the end, maybe art doesn't heal all wounds, but it builds bridges. Bridges between past and present, between what's felt and what's lived, and most of all, between hearts that thought they'd seen it all, only to discover they can still surprise themselves and the world. That's why projects like these must never disappear, because in every brushstroke, every chord, every performed scene, there's a breath of life saying, "The soul doesn't age." Technology with purpose. Digital workshops to reconnect. For a long time, people said the digital world was for the young, that phones were too complicated, that the internet wasn't for those born before the days of TV knobs. And many believed. It believed it so deeply that they stepped back, stopped asking, started thinking they were too old for this. But all it took was one real opportunity, a safe, respectful space to prove otherwise. Human beings never stop learning. And when technology is used with purpose, it doesn't divide, it connects. Digital workshops for seniors are often the first step toward a new kind of freedom. And no, we're not talking about mastering every app or memorizing passwords. We're talking about connection, about texting a grandkid with a heart at the end, about seeing the face of a daughter who lives far away, about hearing a friend's voice through video, not just in fading memory. It starts with something simple, sitting beside them and teaching slowly. The instructor, often a volunteer, isn't in a hurry, and the student, eyes curious, begins touching the screen like someone rediscovering the world. A click here, a mistake there, a warm laugh in the middle of class. Then suddenly, the man who barely knew how to hold a phone sends a voice message. The woman who said, "I'll never," get this, posts a photo of her walking group on WhatsApp. But the most beautiful part isn't just what's learned. It's what's overcome. Fear. Embarrassment. The idea that ship has sailed for me. And when seniors realize they're capable, something shifts, their posture changes, their gaze changes. That spark that seemed dimmed slowly returns. These workshops also bring real independence. Now, instead of relying on someone to book a doctor's appointment, they learn to do it online. Instead of waiting for their grandchild to visit and show birthday photos, they open their gallery and relive the moment whenever they want. These small victories aren't small at all. They're huge because they mean autonomy. Confidence. Freedom. And the most powerful part, when digital skills become bridges to emotional reconnection. A mother talks to her distant son again. A grandfather follows his grandson's life on social media. A widow finds laughter, comfort, and life in a WhatsApp group. Because in the end, technology only matters when it serves the heart. These workshops also fight one of aging's cruelest enemies, invisibility. By learning to communicate digitally, seniors reclaim space. They share opinions, stories, they're heard, and that's priceless. There's another beautiful side effect. Generational exchange. Young and old come together. One teaches emojis, the other shares stories no app could ever hold. It's a fair, rich human trade. And when it happens, the bridge between ages doesn't just hold, it thrives. Of course, it's not all easy. There are frustrations, passwords that won't work, buttons that disappear, apps that change overnight. But every obstacle overcome is a step toward reclaimed dignity. Living proof that minds don't age when challenged with respect. In the end, what remains? The image of a man sending "good morning" with a flashy sticker, a woman recording a recipe, video to share with friends, the certainty that yes, the world may be complex, but it doesn't have to exclude anyone. Technology, used with empathy, becomes a tool for healing, bonding, and belonging. Because learning to use a phone might seem small, but for those who spent years being told they couldn't, it's like learning a new language, a language that connects, welcomes, includes. That's why these workshops matter. With every click, every message sent, every video watched, they say, you're still in the game, and there's so much left to live and share from here on out. Wisdom in motion, walking groups and community yoga. There comes a time when the body seems to stop obeying like it once did. Steps slow, knees protest. The back warns when pushed too far. And so many withdraw. Going out less, walking less, stretching less. But what they might not yet realize is this: the body doesn't want to stop. It just asks to be listened to more carefully. That's where senior walking groups and Community yoga come in. They don't promise eternal youth. They don't sell six-pack abs or magazine-worthy flexibility. They offer something far more precious. Presence, the simple yet profound act of re-inhabiting one's body gently, patiently, without judgment. Picture a plaza at dawn, shy sunlight, birds greeting the world. A group of seniors gathers, each with their worn sneakers, their hats, their pace. Some arrive holding a grandchild's hand, others with neighbors, others alone, but never lonely. Because on that simple walk around the block or through the park, silent connections form, one step after another. A good morning here, laughter there. The walk becomes ritual. What's most remarkable isn't the distance covered. It's the inner journey taken alongside others. The senior who felt invisible for years is now greeted. Remembered. They have a name, a place, a rhythm, and most importantly, company. The sense of belonging is almost tangible, and there's something even more beautiful. Everyone moves at their own pace. No one gets left behind. If someone tires, the group waits. If someone needs to rest, another sits with them. Here, competition doesn't exist. Only cooperation. Care. Humanity. Now, consider yoga. Practice many thought was for the young or out of reach. Yet when adapted thoughtfully, it becomes balm for body and soul. In a quiet room with simple mats, the invitation begins. Let's breathe together. And that simple act, inhaling with awareness, changes everything. Because here, the rush stays outside. Time stretches. The mind slows, and the body begins to speak and be heard. The stretch need not be perfect. Balance may waver, but every effort is an act of self-care. Every deep breath reconciles them with a body that, for decades, carried burdens, cared for others, survived, and now is finally cherished. These yoga and walking groups aren't just exercise. They're emotional healing spaces. Some cry during meditation. Some remember childhood, youth, a departed spouse, a distant child. Between poses comes relief. Comes longing. And above all, Komi's strength to keep going. Friendships often bloom here. After class, there's shared coffee, split fruit, lunch invitations. And that alone is worth more than any prescription. Because loneliness sickens. But companionship? That heals. There's more. Realizing their body still responds, still has energy, can still improve. Self-esteem returns. So does the desire to eat well, sleep better, wear something nice. The will to live with dignity. And that's priceless. Aging doesn't have to be a decline. It can be a rebirth. A chance to see the body not as a burden, but as a lifelong companion, one that now, more than ever, deserves kindness. Walking, breathing, stretching. Simple acts, but done together with intention, with care, with listening. They become revolutionary. With every step and breath, they declare, I'm still here, still moving, still choosing to show up. Because true wisdom isn't about speed, but learning to move with awareness. And when that happens, the body thanks you, and the soul? Oh, the soul smiles. Sometimes, life feels like a long, quiet hallway. Where steps grow slower, encounters become rarer, and eyes sometimes lose their spark. But all it takes is an open door, a listening ear, a kind invitation. For everything to change. Because no one was born to walk alone, and certainly not to age in silence. Throughout this video, you've seen that these aren't just social programs. They're balm for the soul, spaces where pain finds comfort, loneliness finds companionship, and daily life gains new meaning. Gardens where hope sprouts. Classrooms where dignity writes its name again. Art workshops where the soul expresses itself without fear. Conversation circles where time doesn't divide, it connects. And the most beautiful part? These places aren't far away. They're not miracles reserved for perfect cities. They exist in ordinary neighborhoods, in simple community centers, sometimes even in a church basement or a repurposed backyard. They're built by ordinary people, but with extraordinary courage, the refusal to give up on each other. Maybe you're watching this with a heavy heart. Maybe you know someone who's withdrawn, who no longer finds purpose in their days. Or maybe that someone is you. If so, take a deep breath, because there's still time, because there are still paths forward, because healing communities still exist. And you might not need much, just a conversation with a neighbor, a visit to the nearest community center, asking at the FOS health clinic if there's a walking group, checking at the social services office, the community hall, or even your city's social media pages. The paths are there. You just have to take the first step. And if you're in a position to help someone, if you can organize, share, welcome, then you carry a beautiful responsibility to multiply this light, because your small gesture could be someone's new beginning. A life might change because you shared this video, because you brought up this topic in a group, because you decided aging will look different in your circle. And to you who watched this far, listening to every word, feeling every story, I want to tell you, thank you for believing that growing older isn't an ending. It's the beginning of a chapter where what truly matters, love, belonging, dignity, can finally flourish. But this transformation doesn't happen alone. It needs more voices, more hearts willing to step up. So, if this video moved you in any way, single quotes to leave without leaving your mark, subscribe to the channel. It's the simplest and most powerful way to say, I stand for this. I believe in the wisdom that comes with time. Leave a comment, share your story, or someone else's. This exchange is what keeps this community alive. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Maybe it's your parent, your grandparent, your friend, your church group, or your neighbor. Maybe it's your future self, rewatching this on a harder day. However you choose, remember, every click is a seed. And every seed can change a life. Because, in the end, what truly matters, I in single quotes, how much time we have, but how we live it and who we choose to share it with. Thank you for being here. Until next time, where wisdom continues and hearts stay open.